Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's Griffith University Alumni webinar. For those of you who joined us last week, thank you for your patience and for joining in again today. We had no problems connecting with New York this morning, so that's a relief for all of us. My name's Joanne Nyland. I'm the Deputy Director of Development and Alumni at Griffith University. And I'd like to start today by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which those of us in Australia are respectively located. Pay my respects to elders past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. Griffith University has over 200,000 alumni in over 140 countries around the globe. And keeping in touch and providing alumni engagement activities to you all can be a bit challenging, especially in the current COVID-19 climate. So being able to deliver today's event online provides the opportunity to connect with so many more of you than might otherwise be possible. We do greatly value our relationships with you and love to stay in touch. And that's why this year we're doing a major Reconnect campaign to find those alumni we have lost touch with, and also to enrich the information we know about those we are connected to, so that we can offer targeted communications and activities. Your assistance in updating your own information and encouraging those who you might still be in touch with to update theirs would be appreciated. I'm sure the COVID-19 pandemic is impacting many of you, and we of course wish you all the very best as we navigate through this. For our current students, this is perhaps the most difficult time they have faced, as we've been teaching online, and for many of them, part-time work has reduced or dried up. Alumni support of current students through donations to our annual appeal are more important now than ever, and you've recently received some communication from us about this, and if you can, the support that you can provide to students would be, the students would be most grateful for your donation. Before I introduce you to our speaker, a little webinar housekeeping. A tip sheet on how to participate in today's session was emailed to you. However, just a reminder that you can ask questions about the content at any time in the Q&A panel on your screen. Those questions will be moderated, and so that questions of similar types will only be shared once. I also need to let you know that this session is being recorded and that content will be shared at a later date. So if you'd like to post a question but would prefer not to be identifiable, please check the anonymous button at the bottom of your question panel. We are encouraging you to participate in the discussion today and hope that you will share any key learnings you have using the hashtag #GriffithAlumni on your social media platforms, such as Facebook and Instagram. And now I'm delighted to introduce to you Dr. Jeff Thompson. Jeff is a PhD graduate from Griffith University and an adjunct associate research scientist at the Molecular Imaging and Neuropathy Division at Columbia University Irving Medical Center and at the New York State Psychiatric Institute. He's also a volunteer crisis counsellor with Crisis Text Line and an instructor at NYU and Lipscomb University. Additionally, he's a former hostage negotiator and currently an 18-year veteran detective with the New York City Police Department, serving as a mental health and wellness coordinator. So please join me in welcoming Jeff this morning.
Okay. Wow. Thank you very much for that awesome, wonderful introduction, Joanne. And I just want to thank everybody for being here. And I'll just very briefly say sorry for the technical difficulties from last week, but hey, if this isn't a sign of our resilience, then what is, right? So we all made it here, and it's pretty awesome listening to that introduction, how it literally, the reach of Griffith University extends all over the planet, and it's pretty awesome. And looking at what brought us all here today together is we're all from unique, diverse backgrounds, but it's definitely, we're united, and I think I could speak for all of us, our appreciation for Griffith. And again, Joanne, thank you for you and your team for putting this together and giving me this opportunity. I look at this, as she said too, this, I've got some slides. I look at this as a presentation, but I generally want to see this as an interaction between us. So please don't save any questions or comments to the end, send them in. And I will make sure I pause at a few moments too, just to check in and see if we have any questions. If we don't, it just gives me a chance to take a sip of my coffee anyway. So for me, it's that cliche win-win. So let's just jump into this. And I'm going to give you an overview of, as you see on the screen there, it's Warrior 21. It's a resiliency program that I put together. And with the work, the research I'm doing at Columbia, but this is, whether it's my New Yorker in me or not, I just want to be straight up front. I'm not selling anything. I'm not here selling a program. I'm here talking about how I share resiliency, but we also have to look at it from the perspective of being straight up front. Resiliency and what it is and what it isn't. First, the definition, the one that I use that's pretty fairly common, is being able to bounce back from tough adverse situations, right? But let me be straight up front again. We all have resiliency in us, but also just being clear, this 1 hour webinar is not going to make you resilient. Reading a book is not going to make you resilient. Going through any sort of training will not make you resilient. What makes somebody resilient and enhances the resiliency that we all have in us is by doing the practices. So what I'm looking to do today is hopefully spark some of your minds to want to reflect on the resiliency that you have in you, enhancing it, and taking your mental health and making sure that you're looking to increase it every single day, because let me be straight up front again, saying that's not selfish. That's what every one of us deserve, especially with everything going on in this world, and specifically with COVID-19. It's not easy, and that's completely an understatement. So another, just one basic disclaimer too here is everything I'm sharing with you, this isn't intended to replace any medical help and care that you might need. This is here to help and assist anybody with anything they might be going through, but it's also, nothing replaces professional help. And that's the reason I want to stress that right now, is because I think sometimes people forget, and maybe myself as well, the second part of the definition of resilience. And yeah, it's bouncing back from tough adverse situations, but also the second part of that definition is reaching out for help when you need it. Because why should any of us have to take on any of these challenges in life by ourselves? It's just not necessary. Yes, we're strong, but we don't need to do it by ourselves. So let's move along to my next slide here. And no, my PowerPoint hasn't already been hijacked, but now let's just jump right into it. Let's make this interactive. So unless somehow you tuned into this while you're driving on your way to work or you're home from work, don't do what I'm about to say. Everybody else, if you're in a safe location, sitting at your desk, follow along with this exercise that we're going to do. I'm going to ask all of you, close your eyes. Trust me, close your eyes after you just saw what was on the screen, and keep your eyes closed while we finish this exercise. So you just saw a lemon on that screen. Imagine right now I'm in the same room with you and I hand you one of those lemons and I put it in your hand. Now in your other hand, I hand to you a knife. Nice and safely, I hand you that knife and I instruct you to slice that lemon in half. You slowly, delicately slice that lemon in half. And now I tell you, slice off a little wedge of that lemon. You delicately slice off that little wedge. I tell you to put everything down on the table and pick up that little wedge of the lemon. So you feel it in between your index finger and your thumb. Now bring that piece of lemon up towards your face. Smell it. Now, with that little wedge of the lemon, put it inside your mouth. Now, as we stop that exercise, open your eyes. Now, I'm not going to throw it to the audience because I know how this works. I'm certain nearly everybody, if not 100% of you, what's inside your mouth? You're feeling saliva, right? Why? There was no real lemon, was there? But by doing this exercise, what is the point that I'm definitely trying to make? How your mind, and going through that exercise, how your mind impacts your mind impacts your brain and your physical body. Why do we do this exercise? It's the clearest, easiest example. If your mind can impact your brain and your body like that, now think about every time you're in a tough situation. You always have control over something. What do you have control over? Yourself. And that's exactly what resiliency is. So let's two key components. And again, moving from that example we just did, two key components to resilience is perspective and control. And adding to what I just said there, we are faced with many, many situations in life that we have no control over. Let's talk about COVID-19 specifically right now. None of us asked for this. Absolutely not. But we also have control over certain things if we have a particular perspective. A perspective of, we didn't ask for COVID-19, but what do we have control over? Well, first of all, taking care of ourselves, eating well, making sure we have a healthy diet. But also, what about washing our hands or wearing a mask? Social distancing, all those things. Why is that so important to have that kind of perspective? It's not changing COVID-19. either. Keep that in mind. That doesn't change the bad situation necessarily, but it gives you a perspective that you do have control over certain things and you're maintaining control over that. What happens? That's, again, the mind impacting the brain. And guess what? The brain and the mind, it loves feeling like it's in control, which you're reminding yourself that you are handling the things, and that helps you better handle your anxiety, your stress, that sense of feeling overwhelmed, to better handle the stuff that is beyond your control. So perspective and control, very, very important. I'm not going to go into this slide because Joanne already covered the bio, and moving along. I like catchy sayings. It helps remind me. I need a lot of reminders in life. But so here's the thing. Why do I have this slide up here? Nothing changes if nothing changes. And again, I'm not here to waste any of your time either. What I'm hoping you get out of this, again, is to spark your mind to check in with yourself. Remind yourself of the good stuff you're already doing. Keep doing it. And to remind yourself maybe also, hey, maybe I should try this, or maybe I should try that. That's all I'm looking here to do. But now what I always like to say with this sign up here is the metaphor I like to use, and being from New York City, I use the subway example. Imagine you're on the train platform. That's what I describe as me sharing resiliency tips and skills to people. Stand on the platform, people are like, yeah, I'm totally into it. Resiliency this, resiliency that. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, okay, awesome, let's do it. And then what happens is the train pulls into the platform, and actually doing these practices on a daily basis is having to get on the train. But like here in New York City, what does it say? When you're on the platform, mind the gap. All of a sudden, the gap goes from 2 inches to 200 feet. People don't go from saying they want to do the resiliency practices. Unfortunately, quite often what happens, people fall into the gap and they just won't do it. Or they'll try it once or twice and stop. Nobody said it's easy, but it also doesn't have to be complicated. And we're going to dig a little bit deeper. I'm going to share with you a little bit later on, how do you get habits to stick? And then ultimately, what do you want to do with those habits? Make it part of your lifestyle. Okay, so as you can see, that my particular program, what's it called? Warrior 21. Let's dig a little bit deeper behind the mindset of that name. But first, what is my program? Any other? And I'm telling you right now, for anybody on and watching this, a lot of this stuff that's familiar with resiliency already, some of this stuff is going to sound to you very familiar, and that's good. That means all legit resiliency trainings, practices, books, there's a lot of similarities because it's all based on the legit neuroscience data. I always say a word of caution is if something pops up that you never heard of, I'm not saying it's not true. I'm just saying make sure you look to see that it's science-backed. Because resiliency in general, what are you looking to do? Build your inner strength. Make yourself feel a little bit calmer, a little more focused, happier, and positive mental health. Now, you look at those on the screen. Who doesn't want that? And again, there's no magic trick to this. It's just some simple practices and doing them consistently. So we go into, let's dig a little bit deeper with resiliency. But first, the name of the program is Warrior 21. What does it mean by warrior? And I guess if you want, type in the chat box or the question box, anybody, write down when you hear the term warrior, just generally speaking, what comes to mind when you hear warrior? And I'll have a look at some of them as people send them in. Just think of that concept. What does warrior mean when you hear it? And I'll wait a couple of seconds here if you want to send them through. As you send them through, one thing I'll throw some up. Here's some things we've heard in the past, as I see some of the same ones. So you fight, a fighter, service, a protector, perseverance, like that never give up attitude, determined, right? Think about it, that never give up, determined. Think about all these, how they interconnect. Resilient, a lot of times people say warriors are resilient, a team concept. Now, this is the same slide. I just squished the words because why? Then now there's going to be something new. Take all those terms and whatever you just sent in or whatever you're thinking that you didn't type in, take each one of those and I want you to take it and turn it inwards towards yourself. Legitimately right now, take a moment to think of those words. How are you using each of them for yourself? To look after yourself. How are you making sure you're fighting, protecting, persevering, determined, never giving up? And being resilient to take care of yourself every day, because again, let me repeat myself, it's something every one of us deserves. Absolutely. Generally speaking, here's just some stats for here in the States, but it's also very similar for anyone in Australia or anywhere else. Just talking about anxiety. 42 million people in a given year have an anxiety disorder in the United States. 42 million. More than 40% of Americans do not get enough sleep. And how important, here's the thing, instead of turning it to make this interactive, I know the answer. What does sleep give us? Energy. Energy for what? To handle all the stressors that we experience throughout the day in our crisis situations or just daily disputes and conflicts. 94% of people experience stress at work. Now that's one of those, yeah, no doubt, Jeff moments. But now look at this, 23% say their stress level is high. This comes back to perspective and control. Now, you can't necessarily remove all that stress and that high level of stress, but what you can do, and this is my reality check, what you can do is make sure you're coping and handling it as best as you can. This slide is just, let me just tell you, what happens to the stress, anxiety that we're experiencing every day in COVID, non-COVID. It's not just mentally impacting us. Physically, when we're not handling it well, it does absolute damage to our body over short-term and even worse long-term period. Ultimately, again, this is the sign you're looking for if you're looking for a sign. And I'd like to think you're all here right now anyway looking at this. But before, maybe I'll take one quick question if we have any in there before I continue. So let's just hold on one second. See if we have, wow, we have a lot. Okay, let me just, all right. All right, so just looking at these words, awesome, good. And I just want to repeat it again, it just reemphasizes what we already saw. Persistent, strength, fit, strong, protection, warrior, fighter. That was the first one. This was great. Somebody said Xena, warrior, princess, right. Male or female, it doesn't make a difference. That's a good one. Willing to defend, strength again, soldier. And again, we look at that, and I like how somebody mentioned Dan Millman's book, The Way of the Peaceful Warrior, right? It's not only about violence. And again, that's where your perception comes in. Great stuff, everybody. Awesome. Let's see, courage, commitment to a vision. Good things. Okay, so let's just put this back up. One second. Okay, so back to this. There we go. All right, awesome. So let's go into a bit more on resilience. Again, we saw this. I already had this slide. It's not redundant. I put a lot of work into my slides here. Each of these, and here's the key, don't forget, it's got to be backed by research. And that's one of the things I really pride in with the work and the program that I put together. I've got a whole bookcase here right next to me of brilliant work done by people that are a hell of a lot smarter than me. And I'm honored and privileged to either have worked with them personally or being able to use their work and research to share with others. 4 pillars to resilience. Everybody's got their own spin of things. Just bear with me here. Hear me out on the way I look at the 4 pillars to resilience. We have awareness, wellness, purpose, and positive. Going through each of these, awareness, first and foremost, being aware of your breath. Breath control. And again, why is that so important? The last word I just said, control. Controlled breathing practices remind you of what? You're controlling something. And yet again, the brain likes thinking it's in control, and it is by doing controlled breathing practices on a daily basis, or at least trying to do it on a daily basis. Also, we'll dig a little bit more in a next couple of slides on awareness. So jumping to wellness, physical health, mental health. Now, I am certain with the amount of people we have on today, there's a lot of people that have really good physical fitness. They work out every day. They run marathons, half marathons. They do all those HIIT workouts, so CrossFit. Awesome. Absolutely awesome. But now I ask every single one of you on here, ask yourself, what are your mental push-ups? What are your mental sit-ups that you're doing every day? Because if you put in all that work and effort into physical health, good on you. But now make sure you're doing the same thing for your mental health, because one complements the other. But don't negate one thinking that you're doing it really well in the other and just ignoring it, because ultimately that's just not healthy either. Let's do another quick exercise right now, whether you have a pen and paper or not. And again, this is interactive. This is my version, my way of doing it interactive. This is where I want all of you to write down 3 words on a piece of paper right now. Don't write them yet. I got to give you a couple more instructions. I want you to write down 3 words, your best qualities, your best positive, strong qualities that you think you possess. Write down 3 of them on that paper. If you don't have paper, write it on your phone or mentally. Your 3 strongest positive qualities that you think you possess. I'll give you about 7 seconds. Think about it. Okay, awesome. I didn't count to 7. I'm just going to assume that was close enough to 7. With those 3 words, now I want you to pick one of those words. And I want you, and you're only going to start it now, I want you to finish the rest of this exercise later on after this finishes. I want you to tell yourself a story about at least one of those positive words and how you demonstrated it within the past 3 days. So you're picking one of those positive words. They can include all of them, but you are telling yourself a story on how you demonstrated that in the past 3 days. And just take a few moments, and then I'm going to cut you off, finish telling yourself that story later. But right now, just start to tell yourself that story. Okay, I'll jump in again, please just finish doing that later. And this is, again, yet another what I call real resilience reality check. This is it. If anyone's wondering, okay, when's he going to teach us how to enhance our resilience? That's one of the most hardcore best exercises. Because what did you do? You picked a previous story and instant. First, you gave yourself 3 strong qualities. You gave it to you. And then you started telling yourself a narrative of how you've demonstrated it. And what is the awesome neuroscience behind this? For when you are faced with adversity in the future or later today, your memory, your brain's going to remind you that you can handle it because you handled it in the past. And if anybody wants some geeky neuroscience resilience terminology, here's one. It's called neuroplasticity, which I'm sure many of you know that term already. The definition of that is the brain is not fixed. It's always growing. It's always evolving and changing. That should be reassuring for all of you right now, because yet again, that means you have control over that. You get to choose. You're the one that gets to decide how do you want your brain to change. And by doing these kind of practices, I promise you, that's the path. All right, let's move on. All right, so here's, I think, something that hopefully you're all going to find interesting. Cognitive triangle. What does this tell me? And this really blew my mind away when I first came across this. Picture any event or situation that you were involved in. What happens first? Ultimately, now, if you want to draw this triangle too, you can draw it right now. You don't have to draw the lightning. You could just draw a regular triangle. And that's just me trying to wow you guys with some of my graphics here. You have thoughts first. Most people think it's the second thing, emotions or feelings. That's not the way it works. Most situations, you will have a thought, and it could be super quick, subconscious, but you will have that thought first. That leads to your emotions and feelings. And then when you have those emotions and feelings, what does that lead to? Your behaviors, your actions. And then what do your behaviors and actions do? They reinforce your thoughts, and it becomes cyclic. Here's my reminder. This could be good or bad. And what do you want to do? You want to be able to catch yourself when you have those thoughts. You want to say to yourself, what am I thinking right now? What's happening? When you have those emotions and feelings, here is one of the best science-backed ways to make sure your emotions and feelings don't dictate and overwhelm your actions and behaviors. Simply naming and labeling the emotion. Yes, saying inside your head, I am angry. I am frustrated. I'm feeling overwhelmed. Your brain, the connections, the neurotransmitters of what's happening inside you, what you're doing is taking that moment to stop and pause. And by simply naming it, it helps slow you down a little bit to make sure you're responding to situations and not reacting. And for me, I'm not sure about any of you, that for me, that was being able to practice this was pretty revolutionary for me. Just going back to the last thing with thoughts, there's a term called, and if anybody wants to Google it, it's called thinking traps. And what happens, this is where it can help you imagine quickest, easiest example. It doesn't have to be catastrophic event or situations. Imagine you're walking in the hallway, or when we're all allowed to go to actually back to work, where there's hallways and offices. Imagine you're walking down the hallway and you wave and say good morning to your boss, and he or she ignores you and keeps walking. Now, the way this triangle works in a negative sense is you could start thinking, oh, wait a minute, did I do something wrong yesterday? Was the report wrong? Is she mad at me? What happened? What's going on? And what happens? This is called ruminating. You get stuck in this cycle of negative thinking. And what's happening? You keep adding to the story and making it up where you're causing unneeded grief and stress. What do I recommend? Catch yourself and say, is this helpful? And do I have enough information? And if you don't have enough information, like in that case, what about tell yourself, what are alternatives? Maybe they didn't hear you. Maybe they said hello and you didn't hear it. Or maybe they're on their way to go for a meeting with their boss and they're totally concentrating in the zone because they're stressed out and they just didn't acknowledge you because they weren't thinking at all or they weren't thinking clearly. And this is, again, the reminder asking yourself, is it helpful? And do I have enough information? If anybody has any thoughts or comments on that, throw it into the chat box or question. I'll come back and have a look in a second. I just want to cover a couple other things. I realized with the I didn't cover purpose and positive, by the way. So purpose, here's another exercise. And this one is pretty deep, so we're not going to spend time. Just ask yourself, what is your purpose in life? And this isn't one of those, I'm not sitting any of you down on a couch or we're all going to drift off. Just ask yourself, what's your purpose? What is your, and what do I mean by purpose? What are your goals? Identify goals. And what do I mean by that? Connecting that to your purpose, it is very, very important to have individual goals. Again, that's not selfish. That's being smart. That's being human. But also, this is where I want to push every one of you. Every one of you. And this is where I'm not going to mince words. Joanne introduced me. She said all the different things I'm trying to do in life. And yes, I work in law enforcement. And yes, things are awful, to put it mildly. Things are absolutely awful. And why do I bring that up? Because I remind myself, my purpose, I have individual goals, but I sure as hell have a lot of grander purpose. It can't be just for yourself. You must have individual goals to serve yourself, but make sure you're also serving others. And for me, being a public servant, I consider that an honor and a privilege. You don't have to be a first responder, no matter what you're doing. And this is where you don't have to think huge, think smaller. And if you want to write that down, maybe write that down as a note, think smaller. How are you serving others on a daily basis? And again, you know what I do for a living. I'm not giving you BS, made up hippie BS things. Even saying hello to people, sharing a smile, holding the door for people, all these little things add up to big things. Absolutely, I am adamant about that. The last one, positivity. There's a few things to that. One of them is called realistic optimism. What do I mean? Just because you, excuse my language, just because you bust your ass doesn't mean you're entitled to results every time. Realistic optimism reminds me, at least, I'm going to work as hard as I can trying to achieve my goals, but it's also not guaranteed. Because what happens, that brings us into those thinking traps of, I deserve this, I should have earned this, this isn't fair. And we're not talking about having pity parties. Absolutely not. Realistic optimism helps ground us and give us a reality check. Also, there's a great saying, if anybody wants a recommendation for a book, I've got 100, but I'll just give you one right now. Rick Hansen, it's called Resilient. And one of his great lines in his book, he talks about, be the hammer, not the nail. And that's stuck with me for a long time. That's why I'm sharing it with you. I always smile when I say that because it reminds me that, hey, take urgency, take control of what you can in a situation. And the other thing with positivity is, who do you surround yourself with? Now, you didn't pick your family, so you can't fire them. But what about your friends? Who do you socialize? Who do you spend time with? Because that's you. And you think about all those people around you in your inner circle, as big or little as it is, make sure it's like-minded people. And the other thing that in study after study that comes up with resilience is what I mentioned earlier. I'm just giving it a different name or a different description. Social connectedness, surrounding yourself with other people, especially during COVID-19. And this is an example of the whole be the hammer, not the nail. Yeah, you can't go visit people in person, but this webinar is a great example and a great alternative. But also with my perspective, I wouldn't be able to do this with all of you all over the world if we didn't do it on here. Now, does it change COVID-19? No, but it makes me realize there are good things that come out of this. So right now, let's do another quick exercise. And again, here's another reminder. You don't have to do any of this. Nobody knows if you're doing these exercises, right? You get what you put into it. And it reminds me of that slide I had earlier. Nothing changes if nothing changes. So bear with me here. I appreciate you trusting me and going for the ride already. We're already nearly halfway through. So let's amp it up a little bit. Let's do another exercise as far as with positivity and the whole world of being realistic optimism. Think about what's been the toughest, hardest part for you as an individual dealing with COVID-19. And again, I'm not minimizing things. I know people have been through some really heavy stuff and loved ones have passed away. And for anybody that is listening right now, let's just take a moment to realize that and send our prayers to anybody that's been impacted by anything going on in the world right now. Let's just send each other some positive vibes and some positive energy. And now, if we're going to make time to acknowledge that, I also emphasize we got to make sure we have time for the good. And now I want everybody, whether you have that pen and paper, please do write it down. Write down one good thing that's come out of COVID-19. Now, I know, Joanne and team, we can't make this interactive, but if we could, I would call on everybody. That would take up the rest of the time, and I want everybody to share that. But share it in the comments. I know they can't post all of them, but even type it in the box. Write it in there. What's something good that can, and quite often it could be very unexpected. And I'll tell you some things people have said: eating dinner with their family, going for walks, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be massive, but what are you doing? You're reminding yourself that you don't always have to just focus on the bad. We're not minimizing or ignoring the bad either. Let me be very clear with that. I'm just saying, if we make time for some of the negative stuff that's going on, let's just make sure we make time for the positive. Let's see. That was the triangle. You know what? I'm going to take a quick pause because I want to see what some of you wrote, and I'll see if there's any questions at the moment. Let's see. Let me just stop sharing. If there's no questions, this is going to be awkward, so let's just hope there is. Yes, I do see some. I don't know if you guys can see me. This is my bad smile, and now I'm drinking my lukewarm coffee. Do I think resilience changes with age? Awesome question. And I know the team on the background, I'm just grabbing random questions anyway. I don't know if there's a rhyme to anything I do, but at least not with answering these questions. Do I think resilience changes with age? Yes, everything changes with age. Now, however old you are, do you say you're 40 years old? Do you still want to think and act the same way you did when you were 20? That means you haven't matured or changed, or you haven't adapted your thinking. And that is super, super important. And what happens, though, with the age aspect? There's a key term called wisdom. How do we get wisdom? From experience and practice. But here's the kicker. Wisdom is not guaranteed with practice and experience. You have to be able to learn from it. And it's there. I can go more into it, but hopefully that at least helps answer some of that question. Are there references at the end of the slide? Yes, I believe we're giving you the slides. And I think on somewhere, or Joanne might say it, or spoiler alert, if you send me a message on Twitter at Jeff T PhD, and here's an awesome plug, and nobody asked me to do this, join the Griffith alumni group on LinkedIn, because any questions, that's probably the easiest way, and they're giving me a thumbs up behind the scenes. I'm sending them a smile. They sent me one. Anyway, let's see. I see somebody talk about better work balance. With some of the things that have in daily yoga, right? Making the time to be able to do those things, spending work days with a partner. Yeah, these are awesome. And can one of the people, Jade or somebody, can you give me a thumbs up if other people can see what you sent up there, or no? They can. Okay, awesome. So I'm not going to read everyone then, Isabel. I'll just let everybody else read those. Let me just go through. Wow, there are a lot. Again, there's also something called mirror neurons. And from the resilience perspective, as you read through all those, this is where I'd say it's science. There's plenty of things to argue about. Look, I'm an American, a New Yorker. I'm always up for a good argument. And I know Aussies are too. But this, you can't argue. It's science. It's data. As you read through those things, this is one of the cool things about mirror neurons. You're feeling good reading about other people's positive experiences. And that's called contagion effect, emotional contagion. And I think that's pretty awesome. Somebody said clean it up. Good. I'm not sure how many people actually decided to clean their places or not, but for those that did, I give you an extra round of applause. The work flexibility. Yeah, this is great stuff. All right. I'm going to go back to, I got to see what direct. I'm going to share some more slides because I want to make sure I share some more things with you guys. And then we'll go back to some more questions. I'm just seeing myself again. Don't worry. I'll figure it out. Okay, so we did the triangle. Here's the first. I can't continue without making sure I cover this. Warrior 21, it's not a typo. The semicolon's used for a reason. And again, for anybody that's familiar with this, or you want to take a guess, throw it in the chat box, see what some people's answers are. First of all, from the world of just grammar and typing. A semicolon is used instead of what? A period. Instead of stopping or not using anything, instead of just going on every day, just keep going through the motions, the semicolon means to do what? Pause. That's what I'm asking every one of you to do every day. Stop, pause, check in with yourselves. And how did I get inspiration from this? First, a quote. I love quotes. A semicolon is used when an author could have chosen to end their sentence, but chose not to. The author is you and the sentence is your life. I love this. I'm blown away by it. Why? Especially Project Semicolon. Please take a moment today at certain points, search them. They are awesome, amazing people. And what are they referring to? A lot of their work is with people with mental health conditions, specifically suicide prevention. And what are they talking about? Don't put the period. Don't take your life. Pause. Check in with yourself. Get help if you need it. And I applaud them, the work they're doing. I was so inspired that led to me including the Semicolon, but in the Warrior 21 program, just from a much broader perspective of reminding all of us, check in with yourself every day, throughout the day, just see how you're doing. If you're not doing good, that's okay. You can get help. You can check in with yourself, practice this, and if you need more help, go for it. But also when you check in with yourself, it's okay to feel good though too. Don't forget that. And just remind yourself, say, hey, all right, I'm doing good. Let me carry on then. All right, moving along. Let's talk about habits. Now, this is just neuroscience image that I Googled, and I thought I wanted to wow you with what I'm about to tell you. Now, let's shrink that image a little bit. Why? There's going to be some words. Habits, neuroplasticity. Let's dig deeper. Neurons that fire together, wire together. What the hell does that mean? I'm going to dig a little bit deeper. We want to get rid of our bad habits while reinforce the good ones, right? Because habits stick. Which ones that we want stick in the good ones. So how do we do it? 3 steps. First, take practical steps. Give yourself a reality check. And then for anybody that wants some neuroscience-y, geeky stuff, here's another one. We want to activate the ventral tegmental area. What the hell does that mean? We'll dig deeper. But first, the practical steps and reality check. People think, remember we mentioned earlier about setting goals. People think you set a goal. Let's just use a basic one. You want to lose 30 pounds. I don't know what that is in kilos in Aussie speak, but I think we somehow know 30 pounds is 30 pounds. People think it goes from point A to point B. I want to lose 30 pounds. It's going to happen at the snap of a finger. That is not realistic. What it really is, if we're using the alphabet as a metaphor, it's not point A to B. It's really going from like point A to, and I'll make up a letter R. It's lots of little goals achieving along the way that helps you achieve that bigger goal. So have a big goal, but then identify little goals that are accomplished on their own, but they're all working towards achieving towards that big goal and doing it nearly on a daily basis. Something that's not on this PowerPoint slide, let me just say it right now, a hardcore word in resiliency is called self-compassion. Be fair to yourself. Be fair. If you want to learn more about that, search Kristen Neff and the great work that she does. But self-compassion basically is treat yourself the same way you treat your best friend or somebody you love and care deeply about. Because if they deserve compassion, make sure you start with yourself. And again, let me be very clear with you. That's not soft. That is hardcore resiliency. Okay, so now let's look at it. Habits, priming, 3 steps. Again, if you wanted to take notes, this is where I'm telling you, write this stuff down. This blew my mind away. We're just going to stick with the example of losing some weight, right? Because that's the easiest one for all of us to sort of relate to one way or another. It's not just going to the gym. This is the science behind actually sticking with it. There's the before, the during, and the after. Let's dig deeper, folks. First, the before. How do you envision it? Now, I'm going to tell you a story of all the wrong ways to do it. So this is where don't take notes until I tell you that I'm done with telling you the bad way. Here's the bad way. You want to lose that 30 pounds. So what do? You go on Amazon or whatever website, you go to Myers or Rebel Sport, and you buy a $200 gym outfit and sneakers. First of all, buying that $200 outfit doesn't make you lose 30 pounds. It just tells me, I guess you're rich enough to buy a $200 gym outfit, but good on you if you can afford that. But you buy your gym outfit, you put it on, and then you say to yourself, oh, damn it, I really don't want to go to the gym. This is going to be awful. So you tell yourself it's going to be awful, and then what happens, you drive to the gym, you're saying, oh, man, I don't want to do this. You get to the gym, you get on the treadmill, you set up your Netflix on your mobile phone, and you hit 1 mile per hour on the treadmill, and you start saying to yourself, geez, when is this going to be over? I can't stand this. Well, first of all, going 1 mile per hour isn't helpful, but that's another issue. So what happens, 20 minutes goes by, and the whole time you're telling yourself, oh, I can't stand this. Everybody's in better shape than me. I'm never going to lose the weight. Finally, you finish, and you tell yourself, oh, thank God that is over. Oh, my goodness, that was worse than I thought it was going to be. And what happens now? Congratulations. You just rewired your brain to make it nearly impossible to ever go to the gym. Because what did you connect the gym with? What kind of thoughts? Negative thoughts. That's how you rewire your brain in the most awful ways. So now if you want to pick up your pen and take some notes, here's a good way to do it. How do you envision it? You connect it to something positive. By me going to the gym today is going to help me lose 30 pounds. And I know by going today is putting me on that path. I am making the choice. Nobody's making me go to the gym. I'm choosing it. And again, reminding yourself, what does this go back to? Control. Do not forget that. This is the control aspect. So, and again, remind yourself, why am I doing it? I'm choosing to do it, and I'm connecting it to that positive thing of the bigger goal, losing weight. Now, what do you do as you, and by the way, again, I'm just giving you one example of going to the gym. You can apply this to anything. And this is where I didn't come up with this. This is lots of researchers before me. What are the benefits and pleasure of doing it? You've got to tell yourself while you're working out, I'm doing this. This is helping me feel fit. It's helping me feel good. It's helping me lose some weight. You got to tell yourself that while you're working out. Then guess what? You got to do that again. And guess what else? And again. And again, yes, during that whole workout. You have to keep telling yourself this. Why? What are you doing? Here's a little bit of the brain aspects. You are activating the prefrontal cortex part of your brain, the thinking part of your brain. Why is that important? Because it's not a habit yet. It's not like a part of the other parts of your brain, like the striatum, where that's part of your habits and things that you do automatically. It's not automatic yet. So activating the prefrontal cortex helps remind yourself. You're basically telling yourself over and over you're enjoying it, and that starts making those connections in your brain. And guess what it releases? I'm sure many of you are familiar with the term dopamine. It's a neurotransmitter in your brain. Guess what the brain loves? Dopamine. And now what did you just connect with the release of dopamine? Going to the gym. So now what is your mind telling your brain? We like going to the gym. Okay, one thing I will say, and it's the same thing for anybody that's trying to eat healthier. You can't eat a ham sandwich every single day. That's going to get boring. It won't stick. Same thing, you can't do the same gym workout every single day. You'll get bored of it. Make sure you mix things up. Now, just because now you finish that whole workout, you think you're done, go back to your robotic life. No way. When you finish, pause. Savor the results. Some of the research and data behind this says even only taking 13 seconds. Savor that moment. Focus on the results, the benefits, and feelings. Now, what do I need you to do? I need you, when you finish, stop in those 13 seconds. Tell yourself, I feel accomplished. You did this, Jeff. You set out to do this, and you did it. And I feel relieved. You did awesome work. Well done. Now, why do I have the you there? Instead of, and you heard me interchange them a couple of times. You can say, I did this. I did a great job. I feel accomplished. If you want to enhance that a little bit more, use you. Why is that important? What does your brain think when you say you did a great job? It thinks somebody's complimenting you. That's the way the brain works. So instead of you saying I, when you say you, the brain thinks it's somebody on the outside externally complimenting you, and the brain likes that a lot more than you complimenting yourself. Now, here's one caveat, which I didn't say it earlier. When you're doing what this is described as this self-talk, don't do it out loud. Especially at the gym, you're going to sound like one of those weirdos that's constantly talking to themselves in the gym. So don't you say, oh, Jeff told me to do this. No way. I'm telling you, do it inside your head. Let's take a quick pause and see, honestly, maybe one or two people, tell me what you think about this whole science behind getting habits. Let's see if anybody's got any thoughts on this or any comments. All right, let's see. I'm trying to get, all right, let's see. Someone said all good. Well, thank you. All good has been made. Yep, good. Someone mentioned Rick Hanson's other book, Hardwiring Happiness. That's really good stuff. I'm just trying to see if there was a question. We only know we have resilience when tested. I like this. How can we be confident in our resilience before being tested? That is a really, really good question. And so how can we be confident in resilience? By being confident. Now, I'm not just playing with words here. That's part of what that exercise we just did. Remind yourself, if you do breathing practices, try to do them almost on a daily basis. Tell yourself why you're doing them. And you tell yourself, I'm doing this to help me handle the next time something stressful comes up. And let's see. How can resilience, someone just says, how can resilience be improve the quality of human life during COVID-19? That's another really great question. Ask yourself, what are you doing? Pick a couple of things every day that you can do to look after yourself in a positive way. Here's 4 tips, right? We talked about do some sort of physical exercise activity. And some people say they have a treadmill in their house. Awesome. Enhance that. Do it outside. Because what is that connected to? Sleeping. And bear with me here for a second. When you go out and get sunlight, what is it? It releases different neurotransmitters that help enhance the release later on, melatonin, which helps you do what? Sleep. So when you go out for that walk in the sunlight, wear a mask if those are the rules wherever you live in, follow the rules too. Know that you're doing that not only to get physical exercise, but it shows the interconnectedness. It also is going to help you sleep better at night. And it's a work in progress. Also, sleep, by the way, I'll just give you another tip on that. On average, 7 to 9 hours. The amount of people that tell me, oh, I only need 4 or 5 hours, that's such a few percentage of people in this planet. How is it that I get to meet so many of those people? I'm not sure if that's the case, and it just reminds me, on average, try to get 7 to 9 hours, but also some sleep is better than no sleep. Let's see. Someone asked, there's other ways to release dopamine as well. It's instead of just doing exercise, yes, relishing in the positive aspects of what you're doing helps also. It can do that as well. It's not just doing the exercise as well. That's a really awesome question. It's enjoying what you're doing in that moment, or whatever it is, whether it could even be reading a book. It could be just sitting outside, feeling the warm, fresh air on you. So in the last one, and then I keep saying that, but let me stick with it. I have trouble keeping habits, but it's just looking like I'm not repetitive enough. Okay, so that's a great thing. Why is this called Warrior 21? We all know about the pop psychology. It takes 21 days to make a habit stick. That's based on one particular study, getting people to try and drink a glass of water every morning. Some other more substantive practices take like 66 days. Another study showed it took 210 days. Now, me being me, if I'm trying to get people to create new habits, instead of calling it Warrior 21, imagine if I called it Warrior 66, nobody's going to do it, right? So my whole thing is Warrior 21, it's the appetizer to spark your mind and your interest of wanting to do these programs. It's to get you to keep going too. It's just what I call training wheels on your bike. All right, I see there's a heck of a lot more there, but let me jump in and show a couple more slides. Hold on one second. Realizing time is flying too here. Okay, hold on. There we go. So we've got this. This is, why do I have this up here? Again, it's sort of like the question somebody mentioned there too, is there's no quick pour of the faucet. How do you make something stick? It's got to be repeated. You've got to practice it daily. And this is where, though, it comes back to that important term, self-compassion. You allow yourself to have a bad day. Allow yourself to have a bump in the road. Don't let it be a roadblock, though. Missing a day here and there, totally fine. Just don't let it start piling up. That's when all of a sudden you start to fall off. Be fair with yourself, but also don't let yourself have excuses, because it's the daily drip, 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 daily practice of doing these things. And again, habits then become part of your lifestyle. Mindset's everything. I don't know if you guys like this little goldfish here. I do. That's why I threw it in there. That's the only reason I have that slide there. Gratitude. Here is another takeaway exercise that I want all of you to do tonight, no matter where you are. I know for my Aussie friends, it's daytime. And for anyone here in the States or in the UK or Europe, I want you all, write this down, please. One way or another, write this down. I want all of you to do this practice tonight as close to going to bed. So right at the very end of your night, I want you to write down these 3 things. One thing that made you happy today. One thing that you did nice for somebody else today. And one thing that somebody else did nice for you. So as a recap, something that made you happy today, something that you did nice for somebody else today, and something that somebody else did nice for you. And write it when you do it this evening, write it down. And for anybody with kids or you have a partner, try bring them into it. And I tell you right now, you might have a hard time with some of these, which is totally okay, because you've never stopped to reflect on it. That just means you're building new neural networks in your brain. Gratitude is hardcore resilience. I have no problem telling all of you, when I first started doing gratitude and resilience and researching it, gratitude kept coming up. I'm like, yeah, I don't need that. That's not for me. And then it kept coming up. I said, all right, I need to pay attention to this. Again, what does this do? Perception control. It doesn't change necessarily any of the bad things going on in your life or the tough things. This helps you better be able to handle it and deal with it. And I'm telling you, doing this as a practice, you're gonna really, really enjoy it. The other thing I say, bookend. So that's how you end your night. Oh, that's the other thing I forgot to tell you. Guess what else? Doing this gratitude practice. Why am I recommending doing it right before you go to bed? Guess what research has shown? Gratitude practices help you what? Fall asleep. So now it shows you how you're building up these positive things. Realizing it's 10 to the hour, I think I'm going to open it to some questions. But ultimately, what do I want to say? Don't wait for the perfect day to start. Make today the right day. It's not a cliche. It's never going to be perfect, but why not start today? Start a little bit. Keep building on those successes because the brain likes into having those successes and you've got control over it. There's some information. If anybody wants to stay in touch, there's ways that you can connect with me. I will definitely be on that that post on the private group, the Griffith Alumni Network on LinkedIn. And as I throw it to the questions, honestly, whatever it is, just make sure you're looking after yourself. Here's my Q&A slide. I've got a, hold on, let's just bring up the, okay, so some good questions here. The question is it better to focus on one thing at a time with building habits? Honestly, there's different ways to answer that. And I'm not giving you a non-answer, but it depends. It all depends on what the habits are. And again, for example, if you're trying to lose a little bit of weight, it's not just going to the gym, but then the trickle or ripple effect is eating healthier, going out for more walks. And what is that giving you? The sunlight, which then can help you fall asleep. So it has a domino effect in positive ways where you just got to start somewhere and identify those goals. Somebody else will ask, how do we pay attention to what others think of us, but not to the degree where it damages our self-worth? Wow. I shouldn't be surprised with these great questions from my brothers and sisters at Griffith in our alumni community. It's a working balance, isn't it? And I'd say it would be foolish and naive for me to say, hey, don't worry or listen to anything anyone says. We're human beings, but listen to it just the right amount. You know what I'll do? I'll tweet out later if anyone wants it. I'll post it on the group, the LinkedIn group, a great article and interview with Kristen Neff. And here's the kicker on it, how she talks about self-compassion, and she compares it to self-esteem. And the spoiler on that is she says self-esteem is not bad, but self-compassion is a heck of a lot more important, because what happens when you have failure or somebody puts you down? What's the thing that goes out the window? Your self-esteem. So just Google that if somebody wants. It's in theatlantic.com, that article. Let's see. Oh, this one's awesome too. Do you recommend having regular reminders throughout the day to continue building and working on resilience? Absolutely. If that works for you, I need lots of reminders. And I if anyone, I'm showing you, if you can see me, which I'm not sure if you can, I've got an Apple Watch. I really think breathing practices are very important, but I need reminders. So what does my Apple Watch remind me? Every hour, on the hour, what does it tell me to do? Breathe. I don't know what the hell I'm doing the other 59 minutes every hour, but at least 1 minute out of every hour, I stop to breathe and slow down for that 1 minute. And this is the other thing too. My recommendation in my particular program, 5 minutes a day, try and do 5 minutes of controlled breathing practices as close to as when you first wake up. And that's what I mentioned earlier, the bookend. Start your day with the breathing and your day with the gratitude. One other thing too, I'll just say, if anybody's interested in this program, and again, as I said in the beginning, I'm not selling anything. Over 700 people have done it. If anybody wants to do it, I'll let anybody that's on this webinar do it for free, and I'll post information on how you can do it, because this stuff is too damn important to charge anyone right now. I'm writing a book. It'll get published whenever I actually get to that stage. But right now, if anybody is interested in it, by all means, I'll post stuff on LinkedIn on how you can try it out. And again, there's lots of books that I'll recommend. Just do something. Let's see. Oh, am I going? Let's see. I'm looking for more questions here. Often it is the most disadvantaged. I think, are we doing our last question or no? I'm not sure. Yes, we are doing our last question. All right, and this is a long one, so let's see how this goes. Often it is the most disadvantaged and marginalized in the community, those with significantly less power, privilege, and social and economic resources, if any at all, that are encouraged to be more resilient. How do we stop the common discourse and expectations of quote unquote resilience from being neoliberalist, ideological styled social Darwinism. Wow, this is a great one to end with. So here's my personal answer on that. First of all, let's not make resilience a dirty word. And what do I mean? Let's not call people that are having tough times or are struggling, let's not label them as being not resilient. That's BS. Absolutely crap. We all have resilience. People that are marginalized and are being taken advantage of and being disproportioned, isn't that what real resilience is? Because they're still here fighting? And this is the reminder, we all can play a role in this. And this is where it connects to that purpose. We've all got to figure out our greater purpose too, and how we can better serve others. And it doesn't matter what you do for a living. It could be just people close-knit in your family and your community or the larger community. But this should be reassuring with your perspective and control, because don't let it overwhelm you, everybody. And I mean that wholeheartedly. With everything tough going on in this world, we've got to make sure we check in with ourselves and realize every little thing we do is making an impact. Think about that. We won't necessarily fix all of it, but every little bit we do, I'm certain and adamant it makes a big difference, especially to those around us. And don't give up. There's no finish line to resilience. And I'm going to throw it back to you guys in one quick second, but let me just say then, because I think I'm running out of time. Thank you, everybody, for making the choice to be here. You could have been doing anything else you wanted to. You took a chance. You took a greater chance because we kind of missed last week, which was totally my fault, but you came back today. And let me just say, it means a hell of a lot to me. And this is going to be part of my gratitude practice tonight. And no matter what's going on in the world, make it start with looking after yourself every single day. If you need a little bit of help, that's real resilience too. And just reach out to somebody, because don't start feeling like the world's caving in on you. That's when you reach out to somebody, and there will be a hand there for you. Just trust somebody close to you in your circle. Reach out to a hotline or something. And again, Joanne, I'm going to throw it back to you, but you guys are awesome. And everybody, thank you for taking your time to be here. And I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do other than throw it over to you, Joanne.
Thank you, Jeff. Yep, just throwing it back to me is great. And thank you for taking the time to answer so many of those questions. There were lots and lots of questions there. Thank you for your really interesting insights around perspective, making decisions to enhance our resilience. I'm certainly thinking about my mental push-ups now. I'm probably one of those people that kind of focuses on the physical, but now I need to focus more on the mental. So certainly one thing I'm taking away. And I really hope that you all got as many great takeaways from that as I did. I saw that several of you liked particularly the semicolon analogy with a pause there, and somebody had actually commented that they consider the semicolon a super comma, so maybe in this context it's a super pause. There were, as I said, quite a lot of questions that we weren't able to get to in the hour that we had today, and we will pass them on to Jeff. But like he said, he is on Twitter at JeffTPhD. And thank you for all the plugs for the Griffith Alumni LinkedIn account, but that's a great way for you to be able to follow up as well. The slides from this webinar will be sent to you by email after the session, so please keep an eye on your inboxes. And we will also be sending you a short survey for feedback on this session. We're continually evolving what we're doing at the moment in the offerings we're giving to our alumni community, so your feedback is very much appreciated. If you do want to know more about what we do in alumni engagement or the ways in which you can continue to be involved with your university, please do get in touch with us at any time. We are social, we're on Facebook, Instagram and LinkedIn, so just search for Griffith University Alumni. And I do hope that your association with us will continue for many years to come. I'd like to sincerely thank Jeff for being here with us all today. As he said, New York is a challenging space at this time, and for many of us there are lots of challenges happening, but thank you to you, Jeff, in particular, for taking the time to be with us, and to all of you who are online and joining us from all around the world, thank you for joining us too. It was really great to have you here, and I really do hope that you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you and goodbye.